The great passenger ship moved quietly through the stars. Its silver body cut across the black of space like a knife through water. Inside, thousands of beings from many alien races lived, worked, and traveled. Some were tall and shining with crystal skin. Some were small and covered in fur. Others had tentacles, wings, or glowing eyes. It was a ship of many worlds, many colors, many voices. But in the corner of the viewing deck, one figure sat alone. A human. He was not tall, not shining, not glowing. His clothes were plain. His eyes were tired, as if he had seen too much. He looked out of the wide window, watching the stars pass. No one noticed him. No one cared. To the aliens, he was only a passenger, nothing more. Humans were still new to space. Fragile, simple, not important. The ship hummed with life. Alien children ran down the halls, chasing each other with laughter. Traders spoke loudly, selling strange goods from their homeworlds. Guards walked with weapons on their backs, proud and sure of their power. And the humans sat in silence, watching. Then, without warning, the hum of the ship changed. It was small at first. A soft shake like a tremor in the floor. Most ignored it. Ships often rattled, but then came the alarm. A sharp sound, cold and cutting, rang through every deck. Red lights flashed. Doors began to lock. Voices shouted in panic. The human did not move. He only blinked and kept watching. In the cockpit, alien pilots shouted in their own language. Their hands flew across glowing controls. The ship's engines roared, then sputtered, then roared again. Passengers were thrown against the walls as gravity slipped. "Stabilize the core," one alien pilot screamed. "Thrusters offline." "We are losing control," another cried. The ship shook harder now. Panels burst from the ceiling. Sparks rained down. A mother clutched her child. Traders fell to the ground, holding their goods tight. The guards pulled out their weapons, though no weapon could stop a failing ship. The human finally stood. He did not rush. He did not scream. He rose as if he had been waiting for this moment all along. Aliens nearby stared at him. Why was he calm? Why was he not afraid? The ship tilted sharply to one side. Passengers screamed. Luggage and boxes slid across the floor. A heavy crate almost crushed a young alien, but the human caught it with his hands. His arms shook, but he pushed it back and saved the child. The mother gasped in shock. The pilots were gasping too. The main engine had gone dark. The ship was being pulled toward something outside, a massive gravity well, unseen but deadly. If they fell into it, no one would survive. The captain's voice echoed through the speakers. "All passengers, remain calm. We are—" His voice cut off with static. The lights flickered. Darkness swallowed the deck for a moment. Only the red emergency glow remained. The human walked forward, step by step, past the crying children, past the fallen traders, past the guards who shouted at him, "Hey, stay back." Passengers must remain seated. He did not listen. His eyes stayed fixed ahead, toward the cockpit doors. Another violent shake threw everyone to the floor. The pilots screamed inside the cockpit. "We cannot stop it. The ship is lost." The human reached the sealed door. He placed his hand on the cold metal. The guards rushed forward, grabbing his arm. "You can't go in there," one growled. "You're just a human," another spat. The human turned his head slowly, his face calm, his eyes steady. He said nothing. Then something strange happened. The door lights flickered. The metal under his palm glowed faintly, as if the ship itself was reacting to his touch. The guard stepped back in shock. The aliens behind him gasped. The cockpit door hissed and unlocked. Slowly it opened. Inside, the alien pilots stared, wide-eyed and trembling. One whispered in fear, "Impossible. No human should be able to do that." The human stepped inside. He looked at the failing controls. Sparks danced across broken panels. Warnings flashed in alien symbols. The pilots were frozen, their hands shaking. He raised his hand again, touching the glowing console. The lights blinked. For a moment, everything went dark. And then, the ship's systems flickered back to life. Power surged through the panels. The engines gave a weak but living roar. The aliens gasped. Every eye in the cockpit turned to the human. He stood there, silent, as if nothing about this was strange. The ship was still in danger. The gravity well was still pulling. The engines were still weak. But something had changed. Everyone felt it. The human was not just a passenger. The ship hung on the edge of death. Its engines screamed as they fought the pull of the invisible gravity well. Sparks lit the cockpit like small stars, bright for a second, then gone. The alien pilots shouted, their voices sharp with fear. One slammed his many-fingered hand against the control board. Nothing responds. We are falling. Another hit the comms. Emergency call sent.
No reply?
All across the ship, panic spread like fire. Passengers cried out. Doors locked. Lights dimmed. Oxygen alarms began to wail. The great starship that once felt like a safe city now felt like a coffin. In the middle of this chaos, the human stood tall. His hands moved over the glowing console with strange confidence. He pressed buttons the alien pilots had never touched. He spoke words softly to himself. Numbers, physics terms, things none of them understood. The pilots stared, frozen. How? How does he know this system? One whispered. He's just a passenger. Another shouted back as if saying it could make it true. The human ignored them. His face stayed calm, his eyes sharp. He leaned forward and pressed his palm against the main console. The screen flashed. Alien letters shifted into symbols unknown even to the pilots. Then, for a heartbeat, the screen showed Earth symbols, human numbers, human code. Every pilot gasped. The human began to type. The ship shook violently, throwing everyone to the floor. Panels ripped open. Flames burst from a corner of the cockpit. Alarms screamed louder. The pilots scrambled to fix it, but their hands shook too much. They no longer knew what they were doing. The human moved faster. He rerouted power, redirected what little energy was left. His voice was low, steady, almost too steady for a man in the jaws of death. Stabilize thrust vector, reduce drag. Bypass shield conduit, he muttered, as if he had been born to this ship. The alien captain stumbled toward him. His tall frame bent under the weight of failure. His glowing eyes fixed on the human. What are you? No human can do this. The human did not answer. His fingers flew. The ship groaned, its metal body twisting under invisible force. But slowly, just a little, the fall slowed. Hope flickered. Passengers lifted their heads. The guards who once tried to stop him now stood back, silent, watching. Then it happened. A deep rumble shook the ship, not from the engines, from outside. A tearing sound as if space itself had opened. Something dark appeared at the edge of the window. A shadow swirling like smoke, alive and hungry. The gravity well was not just a hole in space. It was something more. Something alive. The passengers screamed again. Tentacled aliens wrapped their children close. Winged beings covered their faces. Even the guards trembled, the shadow spread, pulling harder. Metal groaned. Glass cracked. The human's voice rose. Not enough power. We'll be torn apart, the captain staggered. Then it is over. But the human did not stop. He dug deeper into the system, forcing the ship's old core to reveal secrets even the aliens never knew. For a moment, the ship's AI flickered awake. Its voice was broken, half dead, but clear enough. Human command detected. Authorization. Partial. The pilots froze. Their jaws dropped. Human command? One shouted. Impossible.
This is our technology!
The human leaned closer, his voice firm. Divert all power to emergency thrusters now. The AI obeyed. Energy surged. The ship's nose lifted slightly, straining against the shadow's pull. Passengers were thrown to the floor again as gravity twisted. Some cried, some prayed in alien words. The human braced himself and shouted, "Hold on!" With a deafening roar, the emergency thrusters fired. The ship jerked upward, fighting the pull. The shadow screeched, a sound no one expected, a sound like pain. Space itself seemed to wail. For one heartbeat, it looked like they might break free. But then, a massive explosion rocked the rear of the ship. Fire burst from the engine bay. Metal ripped open like paper. Alarms blared again. Engine 3 destroyed. The AI crackled. Smoke filled the corridors. Passengers coughed, their eyes wide with terror. The human's face hardened. His eyes burned like steel. We're not done yet. He turned to the pilots. Seal the rear. Reroute oxygen flow. Keep passengers alive. The captain hesitated but obeyed. For the first time, he was no longer giving orders. He was following them. The human pushed the controls again, forcing the broken ship to respond. Every second was a battle. Every second the shadow pulled them closer. The floor shook. Sparks rained. Screams filled the halls. Then from the rear of the ship another sound came. Not mechanical. Not alarms, a hiss, a roar. Something alive. The explosion had torn a hole into deep space and something had crawled inside. Dark shapes moved through the smoke. Long claws scraped metal. Eyes glowed like fire in the darkness. The passengers screamed louder. The guards raised their weapons. The pilots froze again. The human looked back toward the sound, his hand tightened into a fist. Smoke filled the long corridors. The ship groaned like a wounded beast. Sparks rained from the ceiling as frightened passengers ran in every direction. The guards shouted orders, but no one listened. The red emergency lights painted every wall in blood-like glow. And then came the sound again. A hiss. A snarl. The sound of claws scratching metal. From the rear of the ship, through the broken walls, creatures crawled inside. They were black as night, their bodies twisted, their eyes glowing like embers. Their mouths opened wide, dripping with strange liquid that burned through the floor. Passengers screamed in terror. Some fainted. Some tried to hide under seats. The guards opened fire. Bright bolts of alien energy filled the hall. Some of the beasts fell, their bodies burning. But more came. Too many. The human turned his head slowly toward the chaos. His jaw tightened. He was still inside the cockpit, but the screams echoed all around him. The captain shouted, "Seal the lower decks." "But there are still passengers there." One of the pilots cried, "Seal them or we all die." The captain roared. The human's voice cut through the noise. "Calm, steady, cold. No, open the vents. Channel the airflow. Force the smoke back. You'll confuse them." The pilots froze. They stared at him. "How do you know that?" One whispered. The human didn't answer. His fingers moved across the controls again. He pressed a sequence no alien had ever seen. The panels changed, revealing hidden pathways in the ship's system. Codes long forgotten. The air shifted. A deep wind howled through the corridors. Smoke rushed one way, pulling the creatures into confusion. They snarled and swung their claws blindly. The guards struck them down one by one. The aliens gasped. The human had saved the lower decks without sealing them off. The captain's glowing eyes narrowed. "This is not possible." "How do you know this ship?" The human finally looked at him. His voice was low, almost a whisper. "Because your ship isn't yours." The words struck like lightning. The pilots froze. The captain staggered back. "What do you mean?" The captain demanded, but the human did not explain. He turned back to the console, typing faster. His eyes flickered with strange light as if memory and instinct were guiding him. On the screen, the ship's systems opened layer after layer, revealing designs older than anyone in the cockpit had seen. Strange markings glowed, symbols that were not alien, not fully human, but something in between. One of the pilots gasped. "This design, it matches the ruins we found on the ancient worlds," another whispered, trembling. "You mean the builders?" The human did not deny it. Suddenly, the ship shuddered again. A claw ripped through the ceiling of the cockpit. One of the beasts dragged itself inside, roaring with hunger. The pilot screamed. The captain drew his blade, but the human moved first. He grabbed a broken metal rod from the floor. In one swing, he struck the beast across the head. The sound of bone cracking echoed. The creature collapsed, twitching, dead. The pilot stared. This fragile human had just killed something that even their guards feared. The human dropped the rod and returned to the console as if nothing had happened. His voice was steady. "Seal the breach. Reinforce the hull. We don't have much time." The captain hesitated. "You speak like a commander." The human's eyes flickered again. "I'm not your commander. I'm just—" Remembering, the captain's heart pounded. "But remembering what?" Before the human could answer, the ship's AI spoke again. Its voice was broken but clear enough. "Ancient protocol. Activated. Human presence detected. Partial override granted." Every alien in the cockpit froze. The captain whispered, "This ship, it was never truly ours." The human's hands flew across the controls again. He rerouted power, pulled hidden reserves, and stabilized the thrusters for a moment. The ship stopped falling deeper into the shadow's pull, but just as hope rose, the floor shook violently. From the lower decks came new screams, louder, sharper. The creatures were not alone. Something bigger had followed them in. The wall shook as if hit by massive claws. The ship groaned in pain. The human's eyes narrowed. His voice was almost too calm. "It's not just random beasts. They're hunting us. Something sent them." The captain's throat went dry. "Sent them by who?" The human turned to face him. For the first time, his voice carried weight like thunder. By the ones who don't want me to remember. The cockpit fell silent. Every alien stared at him, too afraid to speak. Then another deep roar shook the ship. This one was so powerful that panels ripped open and the lights went dark. The captain whispered, "What? What have you brought onto my ship, human?" The human looked toward the darkness of the corridor. His jaw was hard. His eyes burned. The roar shook the ship like thunder. Walls bent. Bolts popped from the ceiling. The passengers fell to their knees, their cries mixing with the alarm sirens. The smaller beasts still stalked the corridors, their claws scraping, their glowing eyes searching for prey. But now something far larger had arrived. The floor trembled with every step it took. A shadow grew on the walls, tall and wide, stretching like a nightmare. The guards pointed their weapons, but their hands shook. Even the captain, proud and fearless a moment ago, gripped his blade tighter, unsure if courage would save him. And then it came. The creature forced its way through the torn metal. Its body was huge, filling the corridor. Dark skin shimmered like liquid steel. Its head was crowned with horns that scraped the ceiling. Its mouth opened wide, rows of teeth glowing faintly. The smell of burning air followed it, sharp and bitter. Passengers screamed in terror. Some fainted. Others clawed at the locked doors, desperate to escape. The guards fired. Bolts of bright energy struck the beast's chest, but the monster barely flinched. The blasts only made it angrier. It roared, a sound so deep the walls shook. One swipe of its claw sent 2 guards flying, their armor crushed like paper. The captain shouted, "Fall back! Protect the passengers!" But the guards were no match. The beast moved forward, slow and certain, like a predator that already knew it had won. Through the smoke, the human stepped out of the cockpit. He carried only the broken rod he had picked up earlier. Compared to the beast, he looked small, weak, fragile. The aliens stared at him in disbelief. One pilot shouted, "Stay back, human! You will be killed." But he didn't stop. His steps were steady, almost quiet. His eyes never left the monster. The beast turned its burning gaze on him. For a long moment, they faced each other. Man and monster, silence and roar, calm and chaos. The human raised the rod. The captain gasped. "No, this is madness." The monster struck first. Its claw came down like a hammer. The floor split beneath the blow. But the human rolled aside fast as lightning. He swung the rod upward. The sound of metal against bone cracked through the corridor. The beast snarled and staggered back, surprised. The passengers froze. No one had ever seen anything stand against such a creature. The beast roared again and charged. The human moved with impossible speed. He ducked, struck, twisted, using every part of his body. His movements were not random. They were precise, trained. The aliens whispered in shock. "He fights like a soldier, not just a soldier. Like something older." The fight raged. Each strike from the monster could kill. Each dodge from the human came within inches of death. Sparks flew. Metal bent. The corridor shook with their battle. Finally, with one last swing, the human struck the beast's throat. It roared, stumbling back. The rod glowed faintly, almost as if the ship itself had given it power. With a final thrust, the human drove the rod deep into the creature's chest. The monster collapsed. The floor trembled under its weight. Its glowing eyes dimmed to nothing. Silence fell, broken only by the heavy breathing of the passengers. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the aliens gasped, voices rising in disbelief. "He killed it." The human killed it. With no armor, no weapons. How is this possible? The human pulled the rod free. His arm shook, but his face remained calm. He turned to the guards. "This won't be the last. Seal the corridor. Reinforce the walls. They will come again." The captain stepped forward, eyes wide. "You fight like someone who has done this before." "Who are you, human?" The human met his gaze, silent for a long moment. Finally, he whispered, "Someone who remembers more than he should." The words chilled the aliens. Remember? What did he mean? Before anyone could ask, the ship groaned again. Warning lights flashed. The AI spoke in its broken voice. Additional breaches detected. Hostile life forms, spreading. The pilots paled. The smaller beasts had multiplied. Screams echoed from the lower decks. The passengers begged for safety. The captain clenched his fists. "We cannot hold against this. Not for long." The human looked toward the window. Beyond the glass, the shadow still waited, pulling them closer. The enemy was not only inside, it was outside, too. He tightened his grip on the rod. His voice was cold, steady, unshaken. Then we don't fight them here. We take control of the ship. All of it. The captain frowned. You mean override? Impossible. No one can get the human cut him off. I can. Every alien in the cockpit stared. The silence was heavy. No one believed. Yet no one could deny what they had seen with their own eyes. The human turned back toward the console, his steps calm. The screen lit up again at his touch, glowing brighter this time. The ship floated on the edge of disaster. The shadow outside pulled harder, bending metal beams, making the walls groan like old wood about to break. Inside, the survivors huddled close together, their faces pale under the red emergency lights. The human stood at the center of the cockpit. The broken rod in his hand dripped with black blood from the slain monster. He dropped it to the floor and placed both palms on the glowing console. The screen lit up again, brighter than before. Symbols shifted and danced across its surface. Alien letters turned into something older, sharper, almost human. The pilots gasped as their own language faded, replaced by markings they could not read. One of them whispered, trembling, This is not our ship." The captain's face tightened. "Explain yourself, human. What are you doing to my vessel?" The human's eyes stayed fixed on the screen. His voice was low, calm, but heavy with weight. "Your vessel? No, this ship was not built by you or by me. It is older than both of us." The captain stepped forward, anger fighting fear in his glowing eyes. "Nonsense. This class of ship was built by our engineers. Our fleet has flown for centuries." The human cut him off without looking up. "Your engineers only rebuilt what they found. They never made this design. They copied it. You've been flying a ghost without even knowing it." The cockpit fell silent. The words hit every alien like a blade. A pilot shook his head. "Impossible. The builders were a myth. Ancient stories. No one even knows if they were real." The human finally turned his eyes toward them. His gaze was sharp, steady, unblinking. They were real. And once long ago, humans were part of them. Gasps filled the room. The captain's throat went dry. "You lie. Humans are new to space. You are weak, unimportant." The human smiled faintly, though his eyes held no humor. "That's what you were meant to believe." Before the captain could answer, the ship's AI spoke again. Its voice crackled with static but carried ancient authority. "Recognition complete. Human presence. Verified. Protocol. Awakened." The cockpit lights flared. The entire ship seemed to breathe as if it had come alive. Hidden panels opened. Weapons long forgotten shifted into place. Energy flowed through channels unseen before. The aliens staggered back in shock. Their own ship was revealing secrets they had never touched. The captain whispered, trembling now, You are connected to it." The human returned his focus to the console. His hands moved across symbols only he could understand. His voice was a whisper, yet everyone heard it. "I'm not connected to it. I was made for it." Outside, the shadow screamed. The sound vibrated through every wall, every bone. More creatures clawed at the hull, tearing to get in. The passengers cried out, their fear rising again. The human's face hardened. "They know. They remember me. That's why they're here." The captain finally snapped. He grabbed the human's arm, pulling him away from the console. His voice shook with fury and fear. "What are you, human? What did you bring onto my ship?" The human's eyes locked on his, cold and steady. "Not what I brought. What they want to stop." The captain's hand trembled. He let go slowly, as if afraid to touch him again. The ship's AI interrupted, louder this time. "Critical choice detected. Full override available. With human command," the pilots gasped. Full override meant total control of the ship. Engines, weapons, life support. Everything. No alien had ever achieved it. The captain's voice dropped to a whisper. "If you take control, then what happens to us?" The human stared at the screen. The glow reflected in his eyes, making them look like fire. "That depends on whether you follow me or fight me." The silence was heavy. Every alien in the cockpit felt it. The balance between fear and hope, between life and death. Then another crash shook the ship. The walls dented inward. The massive beast outside was still tearing through, its claws cutting deep. The smaller monsters howled from the lower decks, tearing passengers apart. The captain clenched his fists. He had no choice. His guards were dying. His ship was breaking. His people were screaming, and the only one holding them together was the human. Finally, with a heavy voice, he said, "Then show us what you are." The human pressed both palms against the console. The glow expanded, spreading through every wall, every deck, every corridor. The passengers fell silent as the ship pulsed with light. For a moment, they all felt it. Something ancient. Something alive. The ship itself was no longer a vessel. It was a weapon. The ship pulsed with light. Every corridor, every wall, every broken panel glowed faintly as if veins of fire ran through its body. The passengers stopped screaming for a moment. Their wide eyes reflected the glow. The human stood at the console, his hands pressed firmly against it. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with something the aliens could not name. The ship's AI spoke in a deep, broken voice that echoed across every deck. Full override engaged. Human command confirmed. The cockpit fell silent. The alien pilot stared at the human as if he had become a god. The captain's blade dropped slightly in his hand. You control it now," he whispered. The human's voice was steady, almost cold. "Not control, guidance. This ship remembers me. It remembers what humans once were." Before anyone could answer, the ship lurched. The shadow outside shrieked louder, pulling harder. Metal bent. Alarm screamed. The passengers cried out again. The human's hands moved across the glowing panel. "Hold tight." With a roar, the ship's hidden thrusters fired. Energy poured through channels that had been dead for centuries. The vessel shot upward, breaking free of the shadow's clawing grip. Sparks flew as space itself seemed to tear. For one moment, the passengers cheered. Hope rose in their hearts. But then new signals lit up the screen. Dozens of them. Bright red dots surrounding the ship. The captain's face turned pale. Pirates. On the screen, dark ships appeared out of the void. Sleek, sharp, armed with weapons glowing bright. They had followed the signal of the dying ship, waiting like vultures. Now they closed in, ready to feast. Panic spread once more. Passengers screamed. Pilots shook their heads. Guards cursed. The captain slammed his fist against the console. "We cannot fight them. Not like this." The human's lips curved into the faintest smile. His eyes never left the screen. "We don't run." "Not this time," the pilots shouted at him. "Are you insane? They will destroy us in seconds." But the human only whispered to the console. The ship answered. Panels shifted. Hidden weapons slid out from the hull, glowing with ancient fire. Shields formed, brighter than anything the aliens had seen. Gasps filled the cockpit. This ship, it was never just a transport. No, it was built for war. The pirate leader's voice crackled over the comms, mocking. "Surrender the vessel. Surrender the passengers. Humans are worth nothing to us. But your cargo, your technology, your lives, we will take them all." The captain reached for the comms to beg, but the human pressed his hand down, stopping him. His voice was calm, almost amused. "Tell your crew to run." The pirate laughed. "A human passenger dares speak? You will be the first I burn." The screen went dark. The pirate ships charged. The human stood tall. "Then watch." He struck the console. The ship roared to life. Energy surged. Cannons lit up along its sides. The first pirate volley hit. Bright fireballs smashed into the shields. The passengers screamed. But the ship held. The human didn't even flinch. Then he gave the command. "Fire." The ship obeyed. Beams of light brighter than suns cut through the void. Pirate ships exploded one after another. The aliens in the cockpit shielded their eyes from the glow. The guards dropped their weapons, stunned. The passengers fell silent, awe replacing fear. The captain whispered, almost in disbelief. He is turning the tide." The pirates fired again, desperate, angry. Their shots scattered like rain against the human's control. He moved the ship with impossible precision, dodging, weaving, striking back. Each motion was perfect, as if he had flown it 1,000 times before. The battle became a storm of fire. Metal burned. Ships died. The void was filled with wreckage, but the pirates kept coming. More signals appeared. The leader was not giving up. His voice returned, now furious. "Human, what are you?" The human's eyes burned with strange light. He leaned close to the comms and spoke softly, his words like a knife. "I am what you feared would return." The captain's heart froze at the sound of his voice. The other aliens trembled. The pirates hesitated, shaken by his tone, but then the leader roared, "Destroy him! Destroy everything!" All the pirate ships charged at once, their weapons glowing brighter than before. The void itself lit up with their fury. The human's face did not change. He pressed both palms against the console again. The ship's glow spread brighter, so bright it filled the entire cockpit. The AI spoke louder than before, no longer broken, but whole. Final protocol unlocked. Human command absolute, the aliens gasped. The captain's knees nearly gave way. The ship trembled as energy built to a level no one had imagined. The human whispered one word. Now, the ship unleashed its full power. The void exploded in light. The pirate fleet vanished into fire. Their ships broke apart, shattered into dust by beams brighter than stars. Pieces of metal spun into the darkness, glowing red before fading into silence. The passengers covered their eyes, unable to look. The guards dropped to their knees, trembling. The pilots hid behind their consoles, and at the center of it all, the human stood still, hands pressed to the glowing panel, his face calm, his eyes burning. The ship pulsed with energy. The sound of its power was like a heartbeat, steady, strong, ancient. When the light finally faded, only wreckage remained. The pirates were gone. The shadow outside had weakened, pushed back by the ship's fury. The void was quiet once more. For a moment, no one spoke. The silence was heavy, broken only by the hum of the awakened ship. Then the captain whispered, his voice shaking. We are alive." The passengers began to cheer, weak at first, then stronger. Voices rose from every deck, crying out in joy. The hopeless had found hope again. But in the cockpit, the mood was different. The aliens looked at the human with awe and fear. One pilot whispered, "He commands the ship like no one ever has." Another muttered, "Not even our fleet lords could unlock such power." The captain turned to him slowly. "You are no ordinary passenger. You are no ordinary human. What are you?" The human lifted his hands from the console. The glow dimmed slightly, though the ship still thrummed with hidden strength. He turned to face them, his expression unreadable. "I told you," he said softly, "this ship was never yours. It was waiting for someone who could wake it." The captain stepped closer, his eyes burning. "But why you? Why a human?" The human's gaze shifted toward the stars beyond the window. His voice was calm, steady, but heavy with truth. "Because once long ago, humans were not the weak ones. We were not the forgotten race. We built, we commanded. We fought in wars the galaxy has tried to erase." Gasps filled the cockpit. The pilots shook their heads. "No, impossible. Humans are too young. Your kind only touched the stars a few years ago." The human's eyes darkened. "That's what you were told. That's what they wanted you to believe. But the truth is older than your history books, older than your empires. Humanity was part of the first age, the builders. We created ships like this. We forged weapons that could bend space itself." The captain staggered back, his face pale. "If that is true, then why did you vanish?" The human's jaw tightened. His voice dropped low. "Because we chose to. Because the galaxy feared us. Because some of us betrayed the rest. The builders fell. And humans were hidden, broken, left to start again on a small blue world." Silence crushed the room. The aliens could hardly breathe. One young pilot whispered, almost trembling, "Then you are their return." The human did not answer. He walked past them, toward the wide window where the stars shone. His silhouette stood tall against the endless black. The captain's voice was hoarse. "What happens now? Will you rule us? Will you bring war?" The human's lips curved into the faintest smile, but his eyes stayed cold. "No, I'm no king. I'm no conqueror. I'm just a reminder. A reminder that humans were never small, that we were never weak, and that one day the galaxy will remember us." The passengers in the halls below cried out in relief. Some cheered his name. Others prayed to him as if he were more than a man. But in the cockpit, the aliens looked at him with something else. Fear. For if what he said was true, then everything they knew about the galaxy was a lie. And this quiet human, this passenger, had just revealed a truth powerful enough to shake empires. The ship's AI spoke one last time, its voice no longer broken, but clear, deep, and strong. Protocol complete. Human command verified, awaiting further orders. Every alien turned to the human, waiting for him to speak. He placed a hand against the glass, staring at the stars. His voice was steady, filled with both sorrow and fire. "No orders today. For now, we survive. But tell your leaders this. Tell them humanity is awake again." The cockpit fell silent. The captain bowed his head, unable to meet his eyes. The pilot said nothing. The guards lowered their weapons. The human turned and walked back to his seat as if nothing had happened. He sat quietly, folding his hands, his face calm once more. To anyone who had not seen what happened, he would look like just another traveler. But every alien on that ship knew the truth. He was no ordinary man. He was a memory of power. A spark of something the galaxy had buried. A reminder that humanity was more than fragile flesh.